I think we all agree that they are holding out as long as they possibly can to wait and see how this young man is recovering. Because that is the number one thought by miles and miles and miles ahead of everything, is this young man and his very survival. Ruben Brown, all-pro year after year after year, offensive lineman with the Buffalo Bills, will be in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Ruben, it's so nice to see you. I'm sorry we're seeing you under these circumstances. You were with us early in the year and so gracious with your time, and thank you for your time today. Ruben, your thoughts personally and what's going on right now in Buffalo?
Well, everyone's in a wait and see mode. All the well wishes and the good vibes are going out to Damar and his family. And everyone's just leaning on the side of optimism for the best recovery or whatever comes of this. So I heard you saying earlier, the real thing that's going on is just, nothing else really matters until we get an understanding of what the health situation for Damar is.
Buffalo fans are as unique as any fan base in any sport. Just an amazing following. You've forgotten more about it than I'll ever know. I mean, I've done a number of games up there, but you're around it every single day. I want to walk through with you, Ruben, first of all, as a player. And I'm not going to ask you if you've been through a situation like this, because the answer, I'm assuming, would be no at any level of football. Maybe I shouldn't assume that. But when you're a player, do players know in the back of their mind they are a split second away, not necessarily from something like this, but you're a split second away, and maybe you never think about it, of your life changing on a dime?
When something like this comes up, it definitely comes into your thought. It does come to your forefront when you see a teammate of yours go down in any fashion. Even though the things that I've seen aren't as severe as someone having to be revived in order to continue to live, but I have seen guys lose their careers and also see guys have injuries that forever limit them. So those are all traumatic things that we've all football players have seen, but rarely has anyone ever seen a player having to be revived and given oxygen on the field in order to, survive or feel better. So there's a lot of things that go in process there for a player in that moment. And you're right, you don't, while you're in the action or preparing for football, but when you see an accident or an injury happen, that comes to your head right away and you think that could have been me.
All right, well, let me ask you this then, Ruben. How in the world does any player for the Buffalo Bills, the coaching staff, the head coach, how is not that on their mind every single snap of this game in trying to prepare for a game? Can you prepare to play this coming Sunday?
That's going to depend on the environment in that locker room. I'll tell you this. Most football players, this being as strange as it may be, or and traumatic for everyone to see, I hearken back to the days when I was at camp and I got the word that Corey Stringer had passed, and that rocked me like this particularly is rocking me. But I actually finished the day of work that day after hearing that Corey died of, heat exhaustion, whatever they explained his death as. And I literally was out on the football field in the heat, and they broke the news in between one of our breaks, and we went back to practice. So in some ways, football is conditioned to do this, and then in other ways, football is the therapy for a lot of guys and for a lot of people. Um, and in some ways, it could be therapy for Damar's family or something like that. So that's a ways off. But I would say to the public, players have seen a lot of gruesome accidents and different things. Nothing like this, but they have all continued to play the game or move forward in remembrance of their brothers. And, a lot of times it lends inspiration. I mean, I think, one of the most famous lines in sports football is what's the Newt Rockney, Remember the Rock
Yeah.
type thing, or Gail, what was that one? What's the Chicago Bears running back?
Yeah, Gale Sayers. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the guy that
yeah.
passed away.
Yeah.
Rocky Bly.
Yeah.
Not Rocky Bly. Yeah, the story. Anyway, there's different things that can be used. I mean, not used, but inspire people to greater things and awareness in this situation. But we all know eventually there will be football games played. When is the issue? And I think that's time sensitive, and I think everyone's playing it by ear. I was around when 9/11 happened, and everyone had to make decisions about whether to play around that situation. So we'll see. And, everyone will make a good decision. And I heard you say before, not everyone's going to be happy about what transpires from this, because this is traumatic. And when trauma happens, how can you put the, close Pandora's box without some type of mess around it? So
this young man, Ruben, is really an amazing story. I mean, the year he's having for this Bills team, 6th round pick, comes out of Pitt, heavily recruited, grew up in Pittsburgh, heavily recruited, and narrowed it down to Ohio State, Penn State, Pittsburgh. Ends up going to Pitt, 6th round pick, back up when the season begins. Guy gets injured, he steps in, and now all of a sudden has made the most of this opportunity. It's a great story the way this young man has played.
Amazing story, and all of the Pitt alumni, which I'm a part of.
I know that.
Very proud of him. We're very proud of him. And I can remember landed him as a recruit to stay in Pennsylvania and go to Pitt. We were very, very worried. We lose a lot of guys a lot of times, even from the Pittsburgh area out to other places, like Ohio State, because they got an influence around there, or God forbid, any other schools. But we were very proud and happy and excited that he came. He participated with our team and became, one of our top guys. He earned honors while playing for the Panthers and won over everyone that came in contact with him. I even heard Mike Tomlin speak about him and his interaction with him. So this is a well-beloved person. We're not saying just football player, well-beloved person and well-respected. And we all are just thinking of him and thinking of all the positive things that could come his way from here on out. And, everyone's sending out prayers so that we will hopefully see him, walking again and breathing and with a smile on his face.
All right, before I let you go, Ruben, I do want to ask you, because you basically just said it. The show, quote unquote, must go on here, okay? And you're really up against it if you're the NFL. We've discussed this already. In the grand scheme of things, if Roger Goodell called Ruben Brown and said, Ruben, listen, man, I need some help on this deal. I need some help on what to do about this game. Should we play it and back up the playoffs a week? Should we make some kind of determination as to this game being no contest, for lack of a better term? We make the Buffalo Bills the number 1 seed because they beat Kansas City, Or, because they got one less game, Kansas, you know what I'm getting at here. If he called you,
Yeah.
what would you do here?
Well, I was a big proponent of them not playing so many games in the first place. So if I was the union or a player that called me and that was my stance, I would weasel that in or drive that point in like, hey, let's forget the game and move on to what we have. But if that's a mathematical problem that they can't solve, we do. I've heard several people say there's an extra week built into the schedule that they can use. They're not playing the Pro Bowl anymore. Just add the playoff in that scenario, or add this particular game, move everything back so this game could be played. There's a lot of options. No one's going to be happy, and I will tell fans and people out there in the real world that don't live a football's life like I have from a very young child up until now, up until years ago when I retired. Uh, the game of football is not that forgiving to us. We go to that knowing it. There's been several games that were played after I was injured or I couldn't play, and I felt like they should stop everything because I'm not playing. But that's a whole different thing when someone's life just kind of flashed before everyone's eyes. But I will say, there's been a lot of tragic things happen, and guys went on and played football after that. And not only that, they've also used it as a therapeutic of getting over the trauma and inspiring and building and even learning more about what caused the trauma and stuff like that, so that things will improve, because the NFL is all about improving the safety of players. And that being said, this is the one thing I want to say to everyone. Hats off to the NFL and whoever's in charge of emergency procedures. You can tell that these guys took that serious. These aren't doctors and people that are standing on the sideline because they paid some money and they get a really close up and close personal view. These are guys that are tasked with a job that may never happen. How many times have we seen that happen? Never. But when it did happen, they were ready to go. They jumped in play. It's a matter of life and death, and we saw that right there in front of us. And that right there should have some type of impact on us to say, hey, is a level of care and concern about what's out there and who is out there on the field. Because if they did not care about that, those procedures and protocols would not be anything, and we would have possibly seen something tragic happen out there. But time and time again, when players have needed emergency care, it's been there for them on the fields. I can look back to, there's been several neck injuries and problems like that where guys had neck injuries and were carted off the field. And with that quick response that all of these doctors, EMS specialists have, they were able to, give the athletes the best opportunity for recovery, or getting themselves back to their once athletic selves. So take our hats off to them and give them some praise and stuff like that while we're going through all of these things, and compartmentalizing different things. This one, we definitely should look to those guys and thank them for their hard work and because they saved the life right in front of us.
No, there's no doubt. I mean, I've said it before, and not because I lived here, because I've lived in a lot of different places. And it's not to say that you wouldn't get the same thing somewhere else, but if something like this had to happen, I can speak from living here that this is one of the great healthcare cities in all of North America. I mean, the hospitals and the doctors, are just incredible in this town. And our thoughts and prayers are with all of you, Ruben, who are associated with the Buffalo Bills, not only those of you that played for the team, but those that currently play, those that are fans of the team, the whole organization. Right here in Cincinnati, man, we're hand in hand together with you guys, as many are across the country and around the world. I can't thank you enough for coming on today and taking the time on short notice. You're the best, man. You're the best, and I hope we can chat again in a playoff game, Ruben. Playoff game.
We're gonna get together. Hey, we are family. You know that.
Amen, buddy. Amen. Ruben, have a great day, man. Happy New Year to you.
You too. Happy New Year.